Cranked is back inside of Black Ops 6 Zombies, and in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to beat every single one of the maps and the Easter eggs so that you can get all of the Gobblegum rewards for not only Black Ops 6, but maybe if you want these to carry over to Black Ops 7. Before we get into the video, be sure to drop a like and subscribe, guys. This took me like 9 hours to beat all of these maps. I failed a couple of them, but it was an absolute grind to get the strategies down right for you. We also did beat Citadelle Des Morts in solo, which people were saying was damn near impossible, and it kind of is, but I'll show you the tricky little strats that you can do in order to beat that. So, with that out of the way, let's get into it. So Cranked is back. It works a little bit differently than it did before in the previous LTMs when Cranked was available to play in Black Ops 6 Zombies. The way they've done it now is in order to even get the rewards, you have to wait until 31 to go to any of the boss fights. So you basically have to like do the entire Easter egg and then probably in most cases play a few rounds to even attempt to get the rewards. If you go to the boss fight too early, you won't receive the rewards. So if you feel like they're bugged, if you've done a map and you're like, man, I didn't get the rewards, you have to be at round 31 or up in order to receive any of these rewards. Also, the way the timer works is a little bit differently. You start out with like 30 seconds on the timer after you kill your first zombie. Every zombie will subsequently reset the timer to its maximum time, and then as you progress the rounds, the maximum time will decrease down to about 10 or 11 seconds in the 20s, which will be the final time. This won't go down to like 5 seconds like I think Cranked was before. It caps at 10 seconds, but you have to be very, very careful and paying attention to what you're doing, especially once you get into the high rounds, because you do not want to let that crank timer go down and have to restart, especially if you get into the boss fight. It's hell to try to work your way back. And before we get into any of the maps specifically, up on screen now, I'll give you guys my Maelstrom build. You can copy this one-to-one. You can change this however you'd like, or you can feel free to use a different weapon. I'm just giving you what worked for me, guys. I used the Maelstrom with the Monolithic Suppressor, Ranger Foregrip, Extended Mag 2, Ergonomic Grip, Heavy Stock, Tactical Laser, and Dragon's Breath. Of course, you can customize this however you'd like. If you have a better Maelstrom build or you have a different one, you can use any other weapons that you would like to personally use. But for me personally, this is what worked for me in all these situations. Moving into our first map that I completed, I did Liberty Falls first. This is by far the easiest one in my opinion. This is the only map that has a completion reward that isn't an Ultra Gum. I would honestly personally warm up on Liberty Falls before you attempt doing any of the other maps, just because it's really not that much of a challenge. It gets you familiar with Cranked, the way it works now since they've updated it, and it kind of gives you a feel for certain things and how to get good at the mode. So start with Liberty Falls. Once you are in Liberty Falls, I honestly just kind of play the Easter egg like normal. I ran around killing zombies. Once you get towards like the late teens, early 20s, that's when the timer gets really, really low. So my best advice would be to kind of start to walk around the map, kill a zombie, and continue to walk. Don't get too far away, because if you get too far away and the spawns take too long for the zombies to respawn at, you will die and have to restart if you're not using the field upgrade or you don't have Gobblegums equipped. I was able to beat this with no Gobblegums, so for this one, there's like no gums you have to equip prior to going into the game. I would just strictly boot in, do the Easter egg like normal, be patient, and be attentive to the timer so that it doesn't run out. My only other piece of advice before you actually get into the boss fight itself would be to watch when you're using the zip lines on the higher rounds and the timer is at 10 seconds, because what will happen is if you hit the timer and you don't kill any zombies before and you're zipping over, you'll either die on the zip line, or when you get over there, it takes a few seconds at the top of the Alamo for zombies to respawn. So honestly, like throw a grenade or kill some zombies, be right before you hit the zip line, and then be looking for zombies the second you get over the zip line so that you don't get stuck there and basically have to restart when you're in the late teens, early 20s, or even right before the boss fight at 31. But the boss fight itself is pretty standard. It's basically just normal Liberty Falls. The zombies constantly spawn, so there's not really an opportunity for you to lose your crank timer. I would personally maybe use the field upgrade in between in case like one zombie gets stuck or for whatever reason it doesn't spawn. So like get through the first phase, then use the crank timer to pause until the next zombie spawns, then work it back up in the second phase. In between the second and third phase, hit the crank timer, kill some zombies, work it back up, and then in the third phase you can kind of just chill out and slay. Once you kill the abomination, I think the timer actually stops, so just be cognizant while you're doing this. Play it like it's the normal Liberty Falls Easter egg, and once you get to that final abomination, you kill him off, the timer will stop no matter what. You'll be good to go. You can kind of just chill out then and relax as long as you just finish up the last few seconds of the boss fight. But like I said, guys, Liberty Falls is by far the easiest map. This is really where you want to go to warm up. Moving into the next map on the list, we have Terminus. For completing the Terminus Easter egg past round 31 here on Cranked, you'll receive a Raindrops Gobblegum, so really good. Honestly, I don't think you need Gobblegums for this. If you want to bring them in, you can, just to be safe, but realistically, Terminus is not really that hard of a Cranked map to complete. What's very nice about this map is that when you hit the water or you get on a boat, it will stop the timer no matter what. So when you're doing the buoy step for the Easter egg, or you're going between the islands for the beam smasher, you don't have to be worried about like, oh my god, am I gonna run out of time going from island to island? Am I gonna have to try and like hold a zombie on the boat or something? No, it's pretty simple. You just get on the boat and go. Outside of that, it's pretty much just a standard Easter egg. There's not really any points here that are really that big of an issue. The timer even stops when you're doing the bomb defusal step, which would have been the hardest in my opinion to complete. But realistically, guys, the Terminus is, I don't want to say as easy as Liberty Falls, because the Easter egg is definitely more complex, and on the higher rounds you should definitely be paying attention. Just my only piece of advice here for the base Easter egg would be to make sure you're walking around and killing zombies at a good pace on the higher rounds. Make sure if you're going from one area to another, don't sprint too far ahead or PhD slide too far ahead. Just kill zombies off the barricades, maybe let them walk with you. I know it's going to take a lot longer to beat the Easter egg, but it's better to be safe than sorry, especially after you've invested like 50 minutes to an hour 15 doing this Easter egg. Now, the boss fight itself is pretty much just like normal. Again, you do have that 10-second crank timer here, so you have to be killing zombies at all times. There were a few times where I kind of zoned out and like looked down at the clock and suddenly there's 2 seconds left and I'd have to hurry up and kill a zombie or a parasite. But for the most part, zombies are constantly spawning. The way I usually play Terminus just regularly when I'm going up against Patient 13 is to like use his tentacles to kill off the zombies. Try your best not to do that, because you want to have those zombies to kill. Like, you're going to shoot Patient 13 for 5 seconds. If there's no zombies in the map, it's going to be a real struggle trying to find one within the next 5 seconds. So do your best to not have Patient 13 murking the zombies for you. Run around, you should be good. The entire boss fight is pretty much standard here. Even in the in-between phases, they're constantly spawning. There isn't really much threat to lose your timer. I did fail this one, however. I accidentally slid into the water with PhD Slider, and unlike the actual Easter egg itself, sliding into the water here in the boss fight will not stop the timer. So, I mean, even if you get back up on land, there's like a 1 or 2 second runoff with the field upgrade that it won't call it in until you've like established yourself on solid ground. So just be careful when you're doing this boss fight, because if you do fall into the water, you're pretty much, it's GG's unless you're playing in co-op. On to what people think is the hardest map. We have Citadelle Des Morts, and in my opinion, it is really, really tough, but I did comprise some really nice strategies here that will help you get this done as easily as possible. I failed this one time, but however, the second go around, I got it down, no problem. There was no issues whatsoever. Here's the strategy for it. On Citadel, you want to make sure that you're not killing zombies too quickly on the lower rounds. You do not want to get into a situation where you're in the mid-20s, still trying to get swords, still trying to do incantations. You want the entire main Easter egg done by like round 25, so that you can just worry about getting stocked up for the boss fight on the back half of the 20s. And you're just chilling, right? So from the first like 1 through 10 rounds, I would highly suggest only killing zombies when your timer gets down really low. 1 kill will reset the timer to its maximum potential. So when you're in like between 3 and 5 and you're traversing the map and opening up Pack-a-Punch and starting to do the incantations, just make sure you only kill zombies when you absolutely have to reset your timer. Again, be careful, you don't want it to completely go away and then have to restart again, but just be cognizant. Take it slow on this map, because it can get very, very hectic very quickly. And you can get to a situation where you're in the 20s and you have like nothing done for the Easter egg. At that point, you're probably just going to want to reset. Once you get to the 20s, you can finish up the remainder of the main Easter egg. From that point on, it's not too hard. Again, the timer does get down to 10%, so you have to be really, really careful. But for the most part, you can just chill out, you can hang out, you can finish up the steps. You're pretty much just primarily killing zombies to do the orb steps anyways, so there's not really any of this like, oh, there's downtime or they're despawning or whatever. You're going to be okay. You're going to be fine. Just make sure you get to like 25. Easter eggs should be done easy. Now, the boss fight is actually kind of rigged, because the zombies don't spawn in enough time for the crank timer to replenish or go down. It'll completely run away if you don't do this strategy. What you have to do, and I'm pretty sure this is like this in co-op too, in order to actually survive this cranked timer, is when the Guardian is jumping down and slamming to teleport you into the boss fight, you have to pop your field upgrade the second he slams down. If you pop it too early, you're going to probably die. If you pop it too late, you don't get it off, by the time you spawn into the map, you're probably going to die. Like, you have to literally pop it down the second his hammer hits the ground. Now, once you get there, immediately pop a power keg. Like, you are not going to be able to find a zombie in the time that this field upgrade is sitting there. So pop your power keg or use the free one with a C4. Get in the power keg, get your stuff refreshed, and then immediately ignore the Guardian once he starts to run after you, and just find the nearest zombie to reset the timer. From here, you should be good for the entirety of the first phase. What I would suggest doing in between the first and second phase, or maybe the start of the second phase, is popping a timeout. So that way, you can kind of just worry about killing the Guardian and doing the boss fight like normal. I know you have to burn a timeout. I know you get a timeout back for completing this one, but I would highly suggest just doing it, just so that you don't die, just so you don't have to come back and redo Citadelle Des Morts. You like just pop the timeout, use it. Do not be afraid to use it. I do have one suggestion with the timeout. One thing I did notice is that there's about a 2-second runoff from the time that you pop and activate the gum to the time that you actually stop the timer. So if you're thinking like there's no zombie spawning, I'm freaking out, I want to just hurry up and just use it. Don't worry about it. Just let it fly. Otherwise, it's going to be too late. If you pop this with like 2 seconds, 1.5 seconds left on the timer, by the time you chew it and it pops and it actually stops the timer, the game's going to be over. You're going to be dead and you have to restart your run. So do not be afraid to use the timeout. Once you use the timeout, though, at the end of stage 1 or into phase 2, you should have enough time to just completely finish the boss fight like normal. In the in-between stage, be charging up your field upgrade in case your timeout runs out, like in the last stage, like mine did. All you have to do is pop your field upgrade, finish off the boss, you'll be good to go. That is Citadelle Des Morts. On to the next map, we have the Tomb. This will reward you with a Wonder Bar. Again, you have to get to around 31 in order to complete this. And in my opinion, the Tomb is really not that bad of a map in terms of its like actual main Easter egg. You can pretty much just play this like normal. I would suggest like maybe on the lower rounds kind of doing what you did with Citadel, where you run some zombies around to kind of get the crystals moved into position for the ice staff right off the gate. So that way you can kind of get that step done and out of the way on a low round and get the ice staff upgraded on a low round so that you're not starting to push the late teens, early 20s where you're running around doing the trials. For the most part, the Easter egg is standard. It's exactly like the normal Easter egg. Do note the timer actually pauses during the upgrade quest for the ice staff, which is kind of crazy to me because there's zombies constantly spawning. I don't really understand why it pauses for this entire thing. But then after that, it's pretty much just the Tomb Easter egg like normal. I was finishing the entirety of the Easter egg up by like 16, 17, and then for like 15, 16 rounds, I would sit down by the stamina up machine and just run the high round strategy with the ice staff to rack up points for my setup, to rack up points for my weapon, my perks, everything ready to go for the boss fight. If you do this right, you should be done with the Easter egg by the mid-teens, and then you can just chill out, do the high round strategy for a little bit, and then get into the boss fight. The boss fight is a little bit tricky because just like Citadelle Des Morts, the spawns are a little bit whacked out. So right when you spawn in, I wouldn't immediately go ahead and use your field upgrade, but if it's getting low, go ahead and pop it right when you get into the boss fight because the spawns are a little bit wonky there. In the initial stage where you are fighting the Citadel artifact, you have to be really, really careful and be cognizant of the zombie spawns because sometimes they do just stop spawning. That's just the reality of the situation. This is where I'd have a power keg. This is where I would have even a timeout ready to go just in case. The boss fight itself, very standard. Zombies are constantly spawning, so the timer won't be much of an issue once you actually get to the Sentinel artifact portion of this boss fight. But I did take 2 downs. I really messed up. I wasn't really locked in when I was going up against the first, couple of HVT stages. I did take it down. I got up. I was able to get through the next Sentinel artifact phase. I also failed another step there where I just died again, got up, and somehow was able to finish it out, thank God, because I had failed the 2 once before. The boss fight, outside of having to use your power keg, outside of having to use your timeout, is really standard. Just make sure you're ready to go when you are in the boss fight. Also, I didn't have a legendary weapon. I forgot to upgrade it by the time I went in there. So, honestly, made the Tomb a lot harder than it had to be. It's not that bad. Just, again, be cognizant of the timer and don't be afraid to use your gobblegums or your field upgrade if you don't see any zombies spawning. On to the second last map, we have Shattered Veil. This one, pretty standard as well. I would just recommend getting a lot of the Easter egg done on the lower rounds as much as you can possibly do, like you did Citadelle Des Morts and Tomb, where you're just walking zombies around, not killing too quickly. You don't want to get into a high round situation here where suddenly it's the mid-20s and you're trying to finish up the Easter egg like I did. I ended up getting to like 31, 32, 33, and I still wasn't done, even though I felt like I was doing pretty good. The real hang up here during the main quest is the plant step. I would almost recommend doing the yellow ray gun Mark II first, just so that you can kind of cruise through that. By the time I got around to it, it was already like 14, 15, and by the time I finished it up, it was already like early 20s because it just took so many rounds in order to defend off the plants when the zombies are just constantly spawning and sprinting at you, sprinting at them. So I will say if you get to the end of the Easter egg or you get to a point where you go to do the safe for the purple Mark II lockdown step, you got to be careful because if you are doing it with 10 seconds on the timer, you just physically can't input the code in the time it takes to input it as well as pop your field upgrade. You almost need a timeout for that, or you have to throw a Casimir down while the Casimir is sucking up zombies, pop your field upgrade, then get into the safe and try doing it. Even then, it's really tough. If you're on a high round, you might have to pop a timeout for this. Otherwise, this is really, really hard to do in solo. Once you get to the boss fight in Z-Rex, he's actually one of the easier ones. The Maelstrom has no problem taking care of this guy. I would just, again, be very cognizant of your field upgrade and the timer as well. Zombies will constantly be spawning, which is really nice, but I, again, would recommend maybe even using a timeout here, just because I know a lot of people haven't used them this year. You should have a lot banked up in your inventory. You do get a hidden power for completing this Easter egg. Timeout basically makes it so that like 85% of the boss fight, you can just play it like normal and focus on the Z-Rex. On to our last map, we have Reckoning. This is probably the best set of Gobblegums that you can get. You'll get a free Perkaholic, you get a profit sharing, you get double points, and 3 flavor hexes. So that's basically 4 Ultra Gobblegums. It's very much like Citadelle Des Morts and Shattered Veil, where you have to be paying attention to the round. You want to do the Easter egg on as low as a round as possible. You don't want to get into a situation where you're doing the majority of this Easter egg in the late teens, early 20s, because the timer is going to become a problem. It's going to take you a lot longer to get done. The chance of you messing up and failing the Easter egg is a lot higher with that low timer. So again, mostly pretty easy. Just do the Easter egg like normal and try to get it done on as low of a round as possible. Now the boss fight itself, I would not do Richtofen at all, period. The timer is constantly going in Richtofen, and especially in the second phase without Ether Shroud, it's going to be miserable. You're going to have a terrible time facing Richtofen. Unless you're in co-op, then you can have some fun with it. But if you're trying to just strictly do this solo, do the Sam boss fight, because either the timer is bugged or the timer doesn't run. But the boss fight, from the time that you enter the portal to start doing the lift step towards the boss fight and the boss fight itself, the timer doesn't move. So you're chilling. The boss fight is exactly like normal. Yes, you still have to get to 31 in order to get the rewards, but it's literally just playing through the same boss fight. Reckoning is easily one of the, probably, I would say it's better. It's not easier than Liberty Falls, because the Easter egg on Liberty Falls is much easier, but Reckoning definitely is one of the easier maps because the boss fight is honestly a joke. You got to really just kind of hang out, chill out, not even be worried about it. You're just there vibing. You're doing it like normal. If you can beat Sam on normal difficulty, you can beat it here and get a free Perkaholic. But that's how I got through all of the cranked rewards here on Black Ops 6 Zombies. Honestly, again, Cranked I think is a really fun game mode, but they need to find a way to kind of fine-tune some of these different spawns, especially in the boss fights like on Citadel. This is the 3rd time we've gotten Cranked. This is the 3rd time Citadelle Des Morts has had really bad spawns. Even the Tomb could have been a little bit better in my opinion. Doing the Gorg effects with the Forsaken on Reckoning, the spawns were a little bit tough there, but overall I really like Cranked. I think it's a cool LTM. You get some free gums for either some casual play this year, or if you want them to carry over into Black Ops 7, you'll get some free Ultra gums that you can start to build your stash for next year. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did find this useful in any way, be sure to drop a like, subscribe for more Black Ops 6 and 7 Zombies content. Have a good rest of your day. Stay safe, stay hydrated. Peace.